Awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. Really super excited to be here. Welcome, everyone, all of our fantastic and fabulous business owners. I'm really thrilled to actually share a bit about the Zebra Leadership Academy. So today we're going to talk about and really focus in on how to work smarter and not harder when you're growing your business. Most of you out there are probably somewhere, you've had your business a few years, you have a few employees, but you're also starting to hit those hiccups that we hit as we start to scale and grow our business. So the Zebra Leadership Academy is really designed to focus in on six mastery levers. So listen, I'm a business owner. So how many times a day do you ask yourself things like, why do things keep falling apart and falling through the cracks? How can I streamline our processes to improve efficiency and productivity? Or maybe you're saying, how do I attract new customers while still keeping the existing ones happy? What if I lose key clients? Or maybe you're saying, how do I find and afford the right people to help me grow my company? What if I make a bad hire and it sets us back? Is all this hard work really worth it? How can I find time for myself and my family without neglecting my business? Or maybe you're saying, will I have enough cash flow to sustain and grow this business? What if I can't pay my bills or employees on time? Now, raise your hand, and you can raise your hand safely, but how many times a day have you said something like this about your business? I'm a business owner. I've had business for over 11 years. There are times when I ask these and other questions, and sometimes I just don't have the answer. So the Zebra Leadership Program is actually a really awesome way to start to get those questions answered. Myself, Jenny DuFresne, I'm the CEO, as Jay said, of Leaders Transform, a former United States Marine. I scaled a multi-million-dollar company. I've built multiple high six-figure companies. And I'm joined by Emily Morosco. She's fantastic. We've known each other for years. She is a co-founder and co-owner of the Excalibur Group, which has been in the government contracting space for over 18 years. She has managed over $100 million in government contracts and grants. So what we bring as a facilitation team to this program is every day building a business. I've had over 65 staff. She's had well over 30 staff over the years, and actually hundreds of staff if you think about their staffing firm. But we both bring lots of wisdom and knowledge and practical applications and tips to the Zebra Leadership Program. So there's six mastery levers that we have seen that are really instrumental and really critical as you're scaling your business. Now, let me pause here for a second. Who's the best business to be served by the Zebra Leadership Academy? Well, what we find through the years is that it's businesses that have at least two, you have a CEO and you have at least two direct reports or two folks who are helping work the business. That can be W-2s, that can be 1099s, it can be a combination of both. It could be combinations of part-time W-2s or part-time contractors, but it's really important to have staff and have team. So that's the first really important part. The other thing is that we look for companies that are about 250,000 in revenue as the minimum annual revenue, all the way up to multi-million-dollar companies. We've had in this program companies that have been $5 or $10 million. And so those are really the sweet spot, because some of the issues that we talk about are really homed in on and focused in on those particular demographics. So the six levers, we have Zebra Leadership. So one of the things that we often know about leaders, especially founders of companies, is that very quickly as we get, in our business, we sort of lose ourselves. And when we start losing ourselves as leaders, we actually don't develop our leadership skills. We may not be thinking about how to take care of ourselves, our health, and all of that. So in the first lever, we talk a bit about growing and how your business grows, but then also that you need to be growing along with your business. So you need to be doing your own work in order to grow. So that's our first lever. The second lever is one of my favorites because it brings leaders to bring their mission, vision, and values right into our workshop. And we actually workshop and reconfigure sometimes what your vision, mission, and values are for your company. So why is that important? because those three items build the culture of your company. They identify what behaviors we should have in your company, you should have in your company and cultivate in your company. And sometimes your great idea for your vision, mission, and value statements, actually, people don't really even know what you do. We've had that happen a few times. And so when we really get in and workshop and work through your vision, mission, and value statements, you come out with a very clear idea of what your company stands for. And that's also a really fantastic way to be able to attract people into your company. We talk about CEO mindset to include how to structure your time so that you're optimizing your performance, and you're also delegating those things that you don't need to be owning, which is one really big area that I know that a lot of CEOs tend to be impacted by. We then delve in lever 4 into systems. Systems are what grow businesses. And those systems have to be documented. So we walk through, what are the systems? What are the standard operating procedures? What are some of the KPIs, the things that we measure? You know, what gets measured is what gets done. And so we walk through those systems and help you kind of build those out. The next lever that is really important is critical hires. So we will actually walk you through, and it's you're going to get a bit of a preview of this today, but we walk you through a structure to really hire the best people. Now, depending on where you are in your growth as a company, you may not be able to write $180,000 annual salary for a new hire. So what are some ways that we can get really fantastic people, but maybe at $60,000 a year, so that you can have those people start to move the business forward and help you scale? So we delve into that, and we're going to, as I said, we're going to actually preview this today. And then lever 6, we talk about team performance. How do I structure and organize my organization so that my team members are getting the absolute best amount of information, performance evaluations? We walk through that. How do I make sure that we're growing my team and my team is actually producing the promise or living into the promise that we say our company is here for? So that's a really quick but high-level overview of the Zebra Leadership Academy. It's really, these 6 mastery levers are really super important as you're thinking about scaling and growing your business. So we're going to delve into a bit of a sort of an example of some of the content. And this is, again, high level, and I kind of cherry picked this a bit, but it gives you an idea under lever 5 of hiring your top talent. Some of the things, some of the content we'll go over. The reason I'm doing that is I want you to have an opportunity to sort of like sit and think, oh, how would this be beneficial to my company? How could I take what I learned here and apply it in my company? So this is one of the actually areas that folks always are so excited to have an opportunity, because hiring, let's face it, hiring is difficult. Hiring in a highly competitive market is even more difficult. Hiring against what we do in our company is also difficult. So it's important to be able to really get that homed in on. So hiring top level talent. So one of the areas we talk about is, what's your business growth strategy? So how are we growing? How are we going to grow this company? And often what happens is that all of those ideas are churning around in the CEO's head, but the CEO is out building, doing business development. The CEO's maybe building systems. The CEO has all of these things that are pulling on her or him. And so one of the important parts when you're scaling your business, when you're trying to grow your business, you have to have a roadmap. So one of the activities we actually work on is creating your growth vision. And this is actually exactly what we do. So we work on this inside of the program. What are your company's strategic growth goals, 6, 12, 18, and 24 months out? And what this does is it allows you to kind of set, in a classroom environment where you can ask questions, you can lean on other colleagues who are also business owners who are part of the cohort. But it allows you to start to set out, what do I want to accomplish? And how do I want this to look so it's measurable and people can know, yep, we're 50% of the way to our 6-month goal, or, ooh, geez, we've totally not done anything to achieve this particular goal. And so that's one of the first sets of work we do. And then we map that to what role is needed for what purpose and when. So if you have in your 6-month goal, let's say you have, open a new regional office. Okay. Well, you have to stop and think, what would I need to open a new regional office? Well, of course, you need a building, you need to have new customers, right? But let's say that regional office is 2 hours from where you currently live or your current headquarters is. So then you got to ask the question, what role do I need to be able to make that 6-month goal a reality and a successful reality? So this is where we get into really starting to think strategically about the role and the skill sets that we need to start cultivating and bringing in and or developing inside of our company. And then the other big question that we want to ask and that we delve into in the Zebra Leadership Academy is, what role, or this particular role, does it generate revenue or does it facilitate growth? Because sometimes what happens as CEOs and owners of company is that we get super excited about giving someone some of the tasks that are on our plate. But tasks are not strategy, and tasks don't always generate growth or generate revenue. And sometimes they don't even facilitate any growth. They're really just sort of like things I have to get done, like checking email as a task, right? It doesn't generate revenue most of the time, and it probably doesn't facilitate growth. It may do actually the complete opposite. So when you're thinking about roles, and again, this is a question that we delve into and we really unpack. This, as I shared with you, is just really high level of the content of lever 5. But these are some questions, and then actually mapping that out. We have the Zebra Leadership Playbook that you actually start to map some of this out so you can come back to it. Because again, in the 6 levers, there's a lot to do. You're going to find a lot of opportunities that you want to work on in your company. But what we want to make sure of is that you don't overwhelm yourself with a bunch of new things to do, but you're able to jot down and even put dates. Hey, I want to come back to this, in Q2 or Q3 and pull it back into our mix. So this is, again, creating a growth vision. Once we've created that growth vision, then, and we've thought about the role, and we've thought about, the what type of role, not just the title, but the skill sets that are going to help you really open this new regional office, right? And then we want to get into, what are some of the keys that I need to incorporate to hire really well? So you can raise your hand, you can throw this in chat, or if you have a question, feel free to throw it into the Q&A section. But here's what I do know. And probably if you've ever hired people, you've had some of these experiences. Why does hiring fail? So if you see this new regional growth strategy and you decide to hire a VP of sales, let's say, and you run around and you're like, okay, I think this VP of sales needs to have, this set of qualities and characteristics. And then you find that person and you're like so excited about them. You're fabulous. And you say, okay, great. You're going to open that store over there. You're going to open that region over there. And in a month or 3 months, you realize that something really isn't working well, right? And you're sitting there and you usually agonize for about 3 or 4 months before you actually get to the point where you're like, okay, we've got to take some action. But then you're like, well, what action do I take? Right. And so hiring often fails because sometimes we're not super clear about what that role really entails. Many of us will go out on the internet and we'll type in VP of sales. We'll come up with a couple of, we'll see a couple of other people's position descriptions, and we'll take that and we'll smush them together and we'll then send that out because it sounded good. But in actuality, we may not have really thought strategically about how would these things in this random position description actually apply to my company? How would it actually apply to actually creating a startup organization? Everyone isn't meant, in terms of their role and skill sets, to open a new region. That's a very special skill set because they have to really function like an owner. They have to think like an owner, right? It's helpful for them to have had the opportunity to open a region, just to continue with that example. Sometimes there's a lack of good candidates. Yeah, I hear that sometimes. My challenge for everyone is that You need to then be more creative in how you look, where you're looking. And so those, again, are some things that we delve into, we talk about. Sometimes we don't know how to choose the right candidate, right? I know if you're in a place where you're hiring for the first time, or you're hiring a next big role for the first time, you don't have a standard HR department. Sometimes, I know we fall in love with people that we interview because they interview well and they seem to say all the right things, and they seem to be like the aspirin and the vaccine to our current pain point. But in actuality, sometimes that's not the best candidate to hire. We can sometimes, when we fall in love with people that we're interviewing and we get all enamored by them, that doesn't mean they're the right candidate for us. And so there's some work that we'll talk about in the Zebra Leadership Academy that really helps kind of unpack this and helps you really start to think more clearly about who's the best candidate for this role. And then sometimes we take too long to make decisions, and so we lose great candidates. I know I'm actually on the board of an organization that their hiring process, we found out, was about 5 months. No candidate is going to hang out for 5 months. So sometimes we have to have these components, these systems in place. We have to practice that system, which we're going to have opportunities to do inside the Zebra Leadership Academy. And then we have to be decisive, right? Yes, sometimes we mess up, but in the Zebra Leadership Academy, we talk about some ways to mitigate that, so you're not having a revolving door of 4 hires, because that's can really tank your organization. And the other thing that's really important and very difficult for a lot of us to do is that we have to let go of a lot of the hats. As we bring in new people, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the Zebra Leadership Program is we as leaders have to move from being the doers and the taskers into being the strategic visionaries, right? And can be a very difficult move, because a lot of us, we believe that we're the best and only people that can do whatever tasks inside of the companies that we gave birth to. And in actuality, if you look around you and you think about all the companies that you shop, that you purchase equipment from, that you do whatever, if they stayed in that mindset, you wouldn't know Amazon, you wouldn't know Facebook, you wouldn't know Walmart, you wouldn't know some of these large companies, because those folks who started, they had to take off the hat of the financing, the hat for product development, the hat for VP of sales. They had to take all of those hats off and get more and more into their strategic role. And so that's one of the things that we talk about and we do a lot of work around in terms of thinking about that next hire inside of your company. And so to that end, what critical leadership roles are necessary for your growth? And so when you're thinking about, again, this is stuff that we delve into, when you think about your key hires, we're not actually because this program is designed for owners, leaders, CEOs of their companies, and sometimes their top level leadership team. We're not thinking about, and we're not focused on hiring your next great programmer. We're not talking about that. We're literally talking about hiring that top level, VP or C level, or someone or director level role, so that you're able as CEOs to give them a part of the work, give them a part of the business. So if you've been doing sales and you're not the greatest at it, and you hire someone who's really fantastic at sales, you want to be able to hand off that role to them so that they are able to really own it and run with it. Well, those key hires are usually going to be at the higher level of your organizational structure, your organizational chart. And so there's a couple things that we talk about and we do work around in the Zebra Leadership Academy, is that your key hires have to add value to your company. And what does that mean? They need to be leaders and team builders. If they can't lead and they can't build teams, they can't be in your organization, right? Because that is what has to happen for key roles to continue the forward momentum and growth of a company. They have to generate revenue. In some way, they have to have a revenue producing aspect to their role. They also have to be a strategic actor and or thinker. And what that just really means is they can't be someone that you as a CEO has to keep telling them what to do every day. If you have to tell a key hire who's in a leadership role, if you have to tell them what to do every day, they are not the right person for your company. Growth requires collaboration. Growth and scaling your company requires collaboration. It also requires people to take ownership in a collaborative way, but to take ownership, responsibility, and authority of their area of domain, the domain that they're responsible for. They have to take ownership of it. And so this is one of the things that we really unpack. And sometimes, honestly, we've had conversations with leaders, and especially in our coaching calls, because we have 2 or 3 one-on-one coaching calls that are private coaching calls with myself or with Emily, where we actually work through what are your kind of pressing problems right now that we can use our expertise to really help you break through and move to the next level. So in addition to this great content, 6 levers of content, you also have the opportunity to work one-on-one with Emily and I in this program, which again is really, I mean, it's super invaluable. I know that people that I've coached I had, for example, a woman who brought in a senior level person into her company. And partly because she lacked confidence about her own abilities, even though she was the founder of the company. She brought this person in, and the person automatically began to take over her company. It began to change processes that were actually not what was in his realm of requirement or expertise. She told me that, along with some other things about her, and I told her, and we had a very long discussion that he actually was taking her company away from her, and she had hired him. And that was not her intention. She was not looking to give her company away. And so those are the kinds of powerful experiences and conversations that we're able to have in the Zebra Leadership Academy. And then so we get into like, okay, you're like, okay, this is hype. This is great, Jenny. That's fabulous. But how do I hire an A-team player? And you all have probably seen this quote from Steve Jobs. It's one of my favorite. And it says, a small team of A players can run circles around a large team of B and C players. And this is so true. And if any of you have been there, you can throw it in the chat. You know, you've been there where you've been like, okay, this person, oh, I think they're going to be okay. You know, well, there's some red flags about them, but I think they're going to work out. I think this will be okay. And yeah, I think we can make this happen, right? You hire them, and then you spend the next 6 months dragging them up the mountain. That's what I call it when we hire someone who really is a drain on the organization. Sure, you get times to kind of figure stuff out, but you don't get 6 months to figure things out, right? We can't afford to do that. And so a fantastic group of A players really can move you forward. So to get there, we practice with you. We have a protocol, a 30-minute phone screen interview protocol, and it's not like anything you've ever done before, where we actually have you build out the structure, and then we role play it inside of our program, inside of the Zebra Leadership Academy. We actually role play it so that you can start to get comfortable. Again, many of you have been busy building the company. You might have hired your mom or your dad or your sister or child to work in the company, or your best friend from college. You hired them into the company, but now you're ready to grow. You're ready to add that next $500,000 or $1 million in revenue. And you've got to have a clear way to maybe, let's say, just hire your key personnel. Maybe you need to identify a chief operating officer. Okay, well, how do you go about doing that? So in the Zebra Leadership Academy, we walk through, we give you, and we also walk through and practice a 30-minute phone screen interview. We practice 5 key questions, but they're some of them the questions that you've seen before, but we do a little special thing on them. We talk about get curious and probe into the answers that candidates give. Typically what we do when we're interviewing people, you could ask, what's your greatest success you've had in your past job? Oh, I built a new rocket ship. And you're like, so, and most of us will hear that and we'll go, oh, wow, okay. And then we go, okay, question number 5. Tell me about a time when you had difficulty at work. Okay, but wait a minute. Let's get curious and probe into that answer about I built a rocket ship. So then what we do is we practice actually really listening. We practice really deeply listening and then asking the candidate, and we start pulling a thread out of one question. And when we do that, we actually disarm the candidate and their interview and start to set up an opportunity for us to get a better picture about what they're really about, what they really believe in. And you'll be really surprised. Like, people come prepared for interviews, but when you start asking them, you start pulling threads inside of a question, you really discover a whole lot more about people. And so it gives you a better opportunity to figure out, hey, would this person work in our really super fast-paced organization where, you know, there's not always someone there to give you direction? Maybe not, maybe so. So you can mark that down. So this is a protocol we practice. It has been a game changer for a number of the companies that we've worked with, and really, really, really insightful. So like I mentioned, we have the Zebra Leader Playbook, and that's where as you're going through each of the modules, you get to write down and document, you know, your questions, your answers. And this really is just for you. We don't have a lot of, you know, we call it success work. We don't have a lot of work or homework outside of the program. We like to do things inside the program because we really want to have more engagement, more conversation. We do have a lot of discussion in this program so that you're able to get things answered. You're able to, you know, you're able to get rid of that boogeyman that might be sitting on your back that's keeping you from being able to grow. You can ask those hard questions that you don't want anybody to know about. You know, we all have them as business owners. You know, should I keep my business open? Should I close it? I don't know what's going on with my VP of sales and marketing. Like, they're not performing. I don't know what to do. Did I mess up? Am I not doing the right things? Those are some of the questions, or positive ones like, hey, I just got, you know, a $500,000 contract to build a new house. You know, what should I be thinking about? We do all kinds of questions like that. But the Zebra Leader Playbook allows you to kind of document it and put dates to it. Hey, this is going to be Q2, Q3 kind of activity. And again, this is just for you. We don't see it as facilitators of the program. So I really want to invite you, if you found value in this high level, quick, I want to invite you to register. You can do that. I believe Jay is going to drop a link in the chat, but I really want to invite you to register. This is a 2.5 hour per session program. We meet every 2 weeks for a total of 12 weeks. That's to do each of the 6 modules. It's not intense. If you've been in other Founders First programs, it's got a good flow to it. It's not 4 hours. It's not long. It's a really good pace, good conversation, good dynamic. It's very interactive, collaborative. You can talk to your mates, your cohort mates. We also have practical, like, do them right now activities, right? So it's stuff that you can put in place and work on right now. We are business owners. We designed this as business owners. We designed it. I helped design it. Actually, I designed it, all of it. But we designed it for business owners, and then we're delivering it as fellow business owners. So we're in the trenches with you every day, right? We're all juggling, you know, payroll. We're juggling expansion. We're juggling, you know, our own selves often. And so I really want to invite you to register because it does make a difference. Just a last plug for this. Having, you know, when we grow business, we often feel very alone. We can feel very isolated because we think we're the only ones that are having those issues, or we're the only ones trying to do this. And in fact, you'll be in a cohort of people who are really excited about moving their companies forward, and they're having the same conversations that you are in their heads silently. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to move into our question and answer stage now, or phase now. So Jay, you have some questions for me to answer?
Yes, there is a question for you here. In the program for Zebra, what would be the one-on-one sessions entail?
So one-on-one sessions are 30 minutes, and essentially you come to the call with something that you need help with, something that you're trying to resolve. I just had a call the other day, for example, just giving you an example. The leader came to the call, business owner. She just had to go through a process of firing someone, which we had been talking about for several sessions. And so we talked about that. But then on top of it, she was really worried about the viability of her business going forward. So we walked through, hey, what are some things that you haven't looked at yet that you could start doing? So we put together a list of those, she put together a list of those things based on our conversation that she could take action on, and to go out and take action on those. And then we come back together again, we kind of debrief what happened and then whatever else. So the coaching sessions are confidential. They're your time to, basically have another leader, another business owner to mirror back. And just so you know, Emily and I have had conversations with people who own barbershops, trucking companies, logistics companies, lawyers, doctors, scientists, cosmetics, clothing, accounting, trying to think all the other companies, technology. So because essentially the industry isn't the critical thing that you need help with as a leader. It's the leadership aspect of leading your company and all the people in it. And those issues, challenges, opportunities they're industry agnostic. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. So hopefully they answered your question.
Another question is, I've done other leadership programs. What makes this one different from the others?
Depends on the leadership program. So if you've done leadership programs that have been designed by academicians, so people who are academics, the difference here is that this program is designed for people who are building the business, in the middle of building their businesses, and they're scaling them specifically. So going from, for example, I scaled a company from, I think we were at 6, then I went to 15 people in the span of a year, up to 25 in the span of a year, up to 65. And through that, we went through 3 building relocations, expanded everything. And so what I didn't ever recognize was, as we went through each one of those growth phases, here's something that you'll never hear someone who just reads about business in a book, is that when you go through growth, which is what the Zebra Leadership Academy is designed for, is companies that are scaling. What you don't recognize is that as you scale, the people who were the folks who held it together and pushed through, their skills actually plateau. So that means that as the owner, you're excited about Joe and Sally that have been with you since the beginning and you really super value them. But now you hit $1 million in revenue and suddenly you're noticing that balls are dropping and you don't know why. Well, I've been through this, Emily's been through it, and we can talk about what's happening. But we're talking about it from the perspective of having actually lived it and walked it, and then we're giving you the benefit of the solutions. So that's the kind of leader to leader aspect of this program. We do it. We're not making it up. We're not just discovering how to. We actually have walked this, and both of us have built multi-million-dollar companies. Both of us have had massive numbers of staff. We've had to, work to get new territory, all of that. And so that's the benefit. So I think that probably sets this program apart. I don't know what programs you've been in, but I think that sets us apart.
Another question for you, Jenny, is any special reason this session is outside of normal work hours?
Why is the program outside of normal work hours?
Yeah, and I'm guessing normal work hours 9 to 5, right? Why is this program
Oh,
outside of those working hours?
sure. Well, I'm imagining that if you are full-time in your business, that 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or 8 to 8 for some of us are your normal work hours. So it's harder to get your attention and have you be able to kind of focus in if we're doing this at noon. Might be a bit more difficult for people to participate. So we try to, and of course, if we have people coming from all across the country, we've had people where it's 9 or 10 o'clock on the East Coast and whatever time on the West Coast and something in between. So there's no perfect time necessarily, but we try to not have it during your typical work day.
And another question. So we've had some people here who have been part of Founders First in the past, whether Challenge or other programs.
Yep.
Does this one end with a pitch, just like the other programs that we have?
No, it does not. And I'm also a graduate of Challenge a few years ago and Boot Camp a few years ago as well. So I'm very familiar with the Founders Force program. And as a participant, I did design this program, so just to make that clear. But as a participant, I also worked to make sure that it made sense for business owners and that we could make things actionable in the moment. So there is no pitch as part of this. This is really about your development as a leader, your development as a strategic visionary of your companies. So it's not geared for you to pitch. You've done that if you've been in any of the 3 programs, Challenge, Boot Camp, and I guess Fast Path as well. You've already gone through that process. So we don't do that in this program.
Another question is, what is more important for determining if Zebra is right for you? Time in business or current ARR?
Well, so it's 2 things. Obviously hitting the 250 is kind of the minimum threshold, 250,000 in your annual revenue. So up to it doesn't matter the top end. So that's one. And why that number? Because you've had some experience, you've had some problems, some challenges, some opportunities, and most likely you have team members. That's why we home in on that. You have team members. It could be virtual, like even virtual, if you're using virtual assistants as an example, if you have a couple of virtual assistants doing different things for you, contractors doing different things for you, at the end of the day, you have to lead those people. Their contractors are not just sort of like pull the string and they walk off and they do whatever. No. You still have to bring them in. You still have to have, meetings. You still have to know what are we doing here? And so hopefully that answers that question. So it's a combination of your staffing size, your annual revenue, your time in business is not only in that you've been in business long enough to start to you're now ready to grow. So you've seen some things, you're trying to juggle some things, you're trying to understand some things about the business and about the expansion.
Jenny, another question that typically comes up when I'm talking with folks about this program is, so I'm the CEO of my company. Can I send my manager to this program instead of me?
This is a program really designed for CEOs and C-level. And let me share an observation. If the CEO is not participating in this conversation and they've sent the next tier down, that tier is going to have access to an entire conversation. But here's the rub. They can't take action because the CEO is probably going to stop it. And I'm just saying that bluntly like that, because if the CEO is not in the same conversation, how many of you have sent your people off to a training and they come back and they're super excited and they want to make all these changes, and you as a CEO is like, oh no, that's not happening, right? And so we prefer there to be if you want to bring team members, CEO, and then your next layer of leadership that is responsible for executing on things, that's better, because then you can all be in a conversation together. But if the CEO is absent, it just sets up a dynamic inside of your company that's not helpful. If you're looking to have your folks developed in another way, that's a different kind of program and conversation. But this is really designed. For example, we have a where we're talking about what I said earlier. As you scale your company, people tap out, their skill sets plateau. So do you want your mid-level managers in that conversation when they might be the ones who are hitting that plateau? Probably not, because it can create all kinds of dissonance in your company and you don't know why. But it's because they've had access to this and then they're scared and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm that person. So that's why we advise a full team to come or the CEO to come.
Okay. And another question is when in the sessions, is this very practical, hands-on? Are we conversating or is it just lecture based? I'm sitting here listening to you and then I take whatever you give me and I'll apply it.
No, it's definitely interactive and conversational. So I'm a graduate of the Challenge program and the boot camp program, and I realized that one of the things that we miss in cohort programs is the opportunity to engage with each other, to engage with the ideas, and to have some work to do, right? So when I designed it so that we have interactive time. Yes, there are times when we have to like, here's the information, you got this information. But giving you another example, like the 30-minute phone screen, we kind of set that up and then we just move into we're practicing. And all of you are participating in that practice, meaning you have two people who are doing that role play and then we're giving feedback because we're learning when we give feedback. We're learning when we observe. So this is designed to really help you get things in your belly, help you work through things in session. And then you can also ask questions in the coaching calls.
Okay. As we get more folks to give questions, I know there's been some administrative questions asked. Is there a cost to the program? Yes, there is a cost to the program. We are giving $1,000 scholarship, which applies to the tuition, which reduces the price to $499. Our program starts in September, so I did put it in the chat the dates there of the program when it starts, and of course the times as well. And of course, I've also, if that does not align with your schedule, then of course we will have one in the winter, but you can also email me to get that information as well. And so that is, of course, administrative questions there. So I did put in the chat my Calendly link, my email, the dates of the fall session that is coming up pretty soon. September is almost literally right around the corner. I can't believe how time flies. And so make sure you check that out. And of course, email me if you have any questions or you're ready to sign up. So is there any other things that you wanted Jenny to tell folks why they should join the Zebra Leadership Program?
Yeah, I just think that I think one of the things that's really important is you don't have to be alone in trying to build your business wherever you are. Leaders, usually if we've had the tenacity to start a business, we also have a bit of a maverick streak, meaning we look to ourselves as the one that has all the information and all the guidance to build the business. And it just gets really lonely. And then, so one of the things that I'm really committed to, and Emily and I both are really committed to, is really helping through Zebra Leadership is to ensure that you don't feel alone, especially as you're thinking about the next big move for your business. And the other thing is that just because we learned how to be a leader 20 years ago does not mean that that makes us the most effective leader today. Leadership is an inside job, right? We have to always be developing as leaders. And so you might be saying, okay, but I'm talking about growing my business. Correct. As leaders, if we're not growing, our business isn't growing. If we're not developing our skills, if we're not around people that are also growing and thinking about the best ways to scale and build, our business isn't growing. There's a direct correlation. I believe there's research on this. There's a direct correlation between how fast and how much we're investing in growing ourselves and the scale and the growth of our business. And so I just invite you, if you have if you're like on the fence or what have you, like, oh, I don't need to do this again. Reach out to Jay, let him know what you're thinking, let him know, what you're kind of concerned about. But I will tell you this program, and I don't have it, this program has got like 4.9 out of 5 stars on a regular basis. We don't ever have a score since, I forget when this opened. I think this launched in 2020 or 2021. We've run probably 6 or 7 cohorts at this point. We have never gotten a score under like 4.9. We for a long time, we just had 5.0, where I think we're one of the highest rated programs, I believe. I probably shouldn't say that. And Founders First. But again, it's because we're business owners having this conversation, right? we're business owners who've designed something that helps business owners. And I think that's really beneficial. We also have had the hard knocks. Both Emily and I've known Emily for probably a long time. We both have had hard knocks. We've had the businesses that have shot to the moon and then, broke apart and crashed back to earth, and we had to rebuild again. So we've gone through a lot of the things that some of you right now might be sitting there going, oh, I just don't know if I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. This is a great program to participate in for that. So I just invite you. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your company. It's an investment in your people to be able to do this program. So that's all I have.
And so I know 3 questions came up. Will this info be emailed? Yes, we will send an email after this session with the information that was just talked about, of course, and with my information in that email. Another question that I could answer is, if we are enrolled in a boot camp program, of course, that's one of our other accelerator programs, do you suggest we take only one at a time, or is it complimentary? I'll answer the first part. Yes, we only ask you to do it one at a time. We don't recommend you take 2 programs at the same time. It's not going to be valuable to you. And Jenny, I'll let you answer that part of the question, but I'll answer his second question.
Mm-hmm.
Is this or is it complimentary? No, it's not complimentary. There is a cost associated to this program, even if you've been involved in other programs. This is not a complimentary program. So Jenny, I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah.
Why should someone not take 2 accelerator programs at the same time?
Well, my first answer is, if you chase 2 rabbits, you don't catch anything. That's my first favorite quote. So if you're chasing 2 programs, like I've had someone who was in the Goldman Sachs, the 10,000, I've had them in that program. And then one of the other programs that I facilitate, they're in, I think, Challenge. They were in that program at the same time. Guess what? They dropped out, right? Because it's too much information and all you feel is completely overwhelmed. That's not helpful or healthy. So I would advise you, if you're doing something else, be happy, continue finishing that out. Then, if you're currently in boot camp and you're like, oh, this sounds really great, I want to finish boot camp, implement boot camp. I've been through boot camp. Implement boot camp, right? Do that for maybe 6 months. Do that. You're going to learn some new things about yourself. You're going to learn some new things about your business, and then come back to Zebra. But do not do them both. We're not trying to be, as business owners, we don't get any gold stars for the number of programs we participated in. We don't, right? We get gold stars when we take knowledge, we apply it, and there's growth. And so I would just strongly encourage you. This is a fantastic program, and that's in terms of people who participated in it, but do one thing at a time and do it well.
Yeah, and I hope that answer what that question was answered. I think the complimentary part, yeah, just don't do them at the same time. I think the comment there, yeah. We just want to make sure it was clarified too, because some folks here and thought that they go complimentary. But if we're not happy, can we get a refund? I think Jenny had mentioned a 4.9 or 5. I don't know why you wouldn't be happy. But in regards to refunds, before the start of the program, like for example, if you pay and then before the start, September 12th, like September 11, September 10 is like something came up in life that, yeah, but once the program starts, there are no refunds. So that is it for the questions. If there are any other questions, we'll about a minute here. If not, again, my email is in the chat. My email will be is sent out to you after this webinar with my information, so you get you registered for the fall session. There are 2 sessions per year, so we have the fall one coming up in September, and then we have the winter one coming up in February. So hopefully we can get you registered for either one, but preferably the fall one. Jenny, any last thoughts before we close it out here?
No, I look forward to both Emily and I look forward to seeing a nice complement of folks coming in September. I believe we're going to kick off. It's a great program. Again, it's focused on leaders, and we do deserve to have our own time to think through things, to get new information, to get new knowledge, and to be able to apply that to our business. So on that, I just encourage you, reach out to Jay, get additional information from Jay that you need. And then, make a decision. I think that's the most important thing, is make a decision, choose a path so that you're able to get what you need to scale your business. Again, I'm really focused, both Emily and I are really focused on ensuring that we as business owners are successful and that we get the tools we need, especially those of us in communities that have often been ignored or misdirected or what have you. It's to really kind of double down together and move forward. So excited
Yeah.
to see folks, and we look forward to seeing y'all soon.
Jenny, one question came up, and I think this is a good one too. Could this program assist with building out a commission-based sales structure and team?
It could assist from the standpoint of kind of thinking about whatever the company is, whatever your current company structure is. It could assist on giving you the space to think through and design and develop what those key roles are going to be, to think through and design what systems are going to be important to be in place. If this is a kind of an expansion, or if you're adding something new, what systems, what standard operating procedures, how do I get those developed? Those are all some of the, what are the key performance indicators, the KPIs that I need for this to say that this is a legitimate part of my business. And so from that standpoint, systems, people, key leadership roles, key roles, reevaluating or reexamining, I should say, your vision, mission, and values and the culture that you build. A commission-based environment, you may want to really think about what kind of culture the organization is going to have, because that will be the difference maker between retaining people or people fleeing for the hills. So those are some things that I think that will come, that I can think of right off the top of my head, that will be valuable. And then, of course, on the leadership side, making sure that you're reflecting on the leader that you need to be in order to lead that company that has that structure. You may have to be a different leader. You may have to, I want to say, evolve your leadership skills in a different way. You might have to set up different reporting structures. You may have to delegate, which is a big area that we work on, delegating, because most of us don't like to do it. We're afraid to do it. We got burned in the past, so we won't do it. But it's, again, the only way that our companies can grow. So hopefully that answered the question. There's a few modules where I can see, or a few of our levers where I could see there'll be application and be helpful.
Okay. Well, Jenny, that's it for Q&As. Again, my email will
Awesome.
be sent out. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.